Saturday. This is Amy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go over my pre-wedding photo shoot that I did over in Ho Chi Minh City back in October of 2024. I'm going to go over the logistics a little bit and kind of help you visualize what we did over there up until like from the very beginning where we found and contacted them and all the way to the end and where we got our photos and back to the US. So I know transactions like this can be scary because they're so big and you want to be very careful because you never know what's out there, what's real, what's not. I understand like the unknown fear is real, and I want to kind of tell you the company I went with and how we did everything and how we were treated. So let's get into it if you're ready. First things first, why did we do our photo shoot in Vietnam? Mainly because it was like cost-wise, and then we saw it as an opportunity to take vacation, since that's something me and my fiance love to do. Like prior to getting engaged, we always traveled, so we thought why not kill birds with one stone, so do a trip in Vietnam and get our pre-wedding photo shoots done at the same time. So that was kind of our plan going into this, like headspace-wise. So how did we end up choosing the company we went with and location? So the only reason why we chose Saigon over the other cities just because like we mainly had family there, and how we chose the company was TikTok. I literally used TikTok as my new Google search engine, so I kind of just typed in like any photographer or videographer for pre-wedding or wedding photo shoots over in Saigon specifically. So and I just saw a bunch of examples, a bunch of videos, and I think I picked total of 5 companies total to vet from. Now, I don't remember specifically each reason why we chose our company over everyone else's, but generally, like, we thought our company was the best bang for our buck. Transportation was included, and then most importantly, they were the most responsive. I remember out of the 5, 3 were kind of tied, and then the reason why we chose Bridal Corner is they responded the fastest, quickest turnover. I think they responded, since we are in 2 different time zones, I think they responded anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, and then we had the other 2 companies respond like more than 24 hours, or like right at 24 hours, which kind of just lagged everything in process. Because the company that we ended up choosing was called Bridal Corner, located in Ho Chi Minh City. I believe they have another branch in other areas of Vietnam, but okay, so what was done in America? So we contact them through, I believe it was like TikTok or through Instagram, and then between those 2 social media accounts, they redirected us to Facebook Messenger. That was their main method of responding. That was the quickest and fastest. Now, language is Vietnamese is their main language. I do not speak Vietnamese, but my fiance does speak Vietnamese. He is pretty fluent, I would say. So that kind of helped bridge the gap of everything. If we had to do this in just plain English with maybe a minor Vietnamese background, I think you could get away with it. But if you just did this with just plain English with no Vietnamese language like background at all, we think that it would be kind of difficult. Once Bridal Corner and us kind of gave her a little back and forth, and we kind of agreed on like style, what's included, what's not included, dates, locations to shoot at, then they asked for a deposit through PayPal, and then the rest be paid in full in Dong over in Vietnam at the studio. That payment will be paid on day 1 out of the day 2. It will be paid on the day before of your fitting, and then you'll get a receipt that says paid in full. You just want to make sure that on the receipt somewhere it will say paid in full. It'll probably be in Vietnamese, so whip out your Google Translate and just make sure that's stated somewhere there before you proceed with the process. So that's one thing that you have to be very careful about, just so there's no mistakes or anything, because it's in cash technically. They want it in Dong currency, so there was no paper trail except for that receipt. So because we are out of the country shoot, everything was going to be done in 2 days. Day 1, you're going to do a fitting and do your payment. Day 2, it's going to be the actual shoot. It's going to be a long day, longer than ours maybe if you do locations that were further than ours. All of our locations were in the city of Ho Chi Minh, and then one was actually in the studio. So if you chose areas that are a little bit further, be prepared for a longer day shoot. But since our day of stay were only 7 days, everything was kind of expedited and shortened into everything was condensed into 2 days. So things might look a little different if maybe y'all have a little bit more time with y'all's. So items that were included and not like negotiated, like everyone seems to get this, was we get 1 large photo. So usually the best way to explain it is like that one big one that you walk into people's like wedding dinners, like receptions. It's usually about that size. We got 1 book that's super heavy and that we had to put in our carry-on. We got 5 pieces of like standalone photos like this. with a wooden frame and stand. We got one video, and then we got all the raw unedited photos. And I believe they edited 50 photos. That was the one thing I don't remember in agreement, was how many edited photos there, and then how many raw unedited. We got 1.3K unedited raw photos. Location wise, they had about 5 to 7 locations that you can kind of choose from for references that they already had previous people shoot at, or like for their commercials or like advertisements. Those were the locations that they used. So we had 5 to 7 to pick from. The studio was one of them as an example. But if, like I said earlier, you have a customized certain location that's very meaningful to you, I believe they can accommodate to it depending on how far it is. But that could alter like your shoots, because I know one thing that they refused to do was like go from A to B to C. Like they didn't want to do that. They kind of wanted to group everything together. So our shoots were in the city, at the museum, in the city, and then at the studio, which was like where everything was. Their studio was on the 3rd floor. So the 3 locations that we chose, just because of weather-wise, logistics, time, and we were so tired. We started off in the city with a vintage car. Then we moved to the museum where we shot indoors, and then we moved to the studio, so back to the original place where we started to do the studio shot. Okay, so fast forward now, you made the commitment in June, you did the deposit. About a month out, they gave you the reminder of like what to do, what to bring, what not to bring, and then the day before we flew out to Vietnam, we kind of gave them a heads up of our flight information. And then when we landed, we also reminded them like, hey, we successfully made it into Vietnam, just because of like, you know, delays and stuff like that. We want to let them know that we were here and we were going to make it to the shoot. Then they would kind of give us like a day of when we would do our fitting, and so we chose our day to be right before our shoot. So I believe that was day 3 we did our fitting, and then day 4 we did our shoot, and then we left on day 7 or 8, I forget. So from day 0 of when we landed up until day 3 of our fitting, we kind of did things that they needed us to do. So like bring a pair of white shoes, get your nails done were the main 2 things with the females. I mean, the males, I'll get into it, but I don't think they did any type of prepping. So at the fitting, they kind of sat us down and went through the logistics first, kind of clarified all the logistics before we paid in full, before we went upstairs and saw all the pretty dresses. So the logistics were that we paid a total of, I don't remember specifically, but I think it was 25 million dong, which converted at the time between 1.1 to 1.3 thousand dollars USD. The only reason why I say 1.1 or 1.3 is that we paid extra for a vintage car that was rental, and that was around $200-ish. We got the cheapest one. So if you chose to do it without a vintage car, it would have been 1.1 USD, and then if you did it with a vintage car, it would have been 1.3K USD. The day was gonna look like, they kind of warned us that we were gonna have to wake up around 4-ish, do a whole skin prep at the hotel on your own, arrive at the studio at 5 a.m. Between 5 and 7 is when they were prepped. They spent 1.5 hours on me with hair and makeup and getting in my first dress. And then the 30 minutes, unfortunately for men, was just a little bit of touch up and doing their hair. Tony did his own hair, and I believe they touched him up just a little bit, and then he wore a suit. Like, that was it. 30 minutes. And so 7 o'clock sharp is where they were off to their y'all's first location. So between 7 o'clock and 2 p.m. is when we shot between the 3 locations. And between 2 and 3 is when we went back to the studio and picked out the amount of photos, or the photos that we wanted that was edited, which photos we wanted for the 5 standalone pictures, which photos would go in the book, and then which photo for the big, large, like, reception photo. And then at 3 we were done. We headed back to the hotel and we passed the F out because we were like, done, toasted, cooked. 3 floors, floor 1 and floor 2 have dresses, and then floor 3 is just their studio. I had a very specific look in mind, so it was pretty easy for me to scan to like what I wanted and what I definitely didn't want. They had a good amount, like a huge amount of poofy dresses and off-the-shoulder dresses. And those are the 2 things I hated. So for me, unfortunately, it was like a smaller selection. So if you want just like the simple, sleek, nothing poofy and nothing Cinderella-y, there was a limited selection. Still a good amount, but like in comparison to the big poofy ball gowns, like smaller in comparison in ratio. I also did not want off the shoulder, and that was also a good amount of their stuff. So that also like filtered a lot of other things out. So my selection just became a little bit smaller and smaller, to where I did get kind of concerned if I would find something for me. But in the end, I kind of know what I look good in. The sad things is that we didn't find like a traditional like chi pao dress for me and Tony, but we kind of went with an ao dai. We do have some Vietnamese like blood and history in our family, so we weren't like totally upset that we couldn't find a Chinese chi pao. They did have some options, but they were a little bit more traditional and limited from what we had in our minds. Probably my fault for not bringing my own or maybe asking for images beforehand. I should have probably guessed that because it's Vietnam that they probably didn't have many choices. So they had more ao dai choices that were a little bit more modern looking. So we actually ended up getting we get fitted for an ao dai and not a chi pao. So after we found all our fittings, which took maybe a good solid 3 to 4 hours, because they make adjustments right there. They have a seamstress available, like ready to go, I assume for this reason, because everyone comes in all shapes and sizes. One of the main concerns I had was going into this was I'm not the smallest female out there. I am a size 4 USA, and then if you look general average maybe body types in Vietnam, they're a little bit smaller, a little bit more hourglass, smaller waist than I was. So that was one of the concerns that I had as like a lady going in, like would it fit me? You want to wear the shoes that you're going to wear at the shoot to your fitting, so they know how to adjust that day, like height and everything. So we found all the dresses and fitting, we're happy, we're leaving. We then do our payment, and then that's when you want to make sure that the receipt that you have, that you pay your currency, and because they want it in cash, that it has somewhere on the receipt says paid in full, and you want to keep that receipt until this whole process is over, just in case. Okay, I didn't say this earlier, but women get 3 looks and then men get 2. Not that men have lots to pick from. Y'all might just exchange a bow tie or to a tie, or maybe a different jacket that has maybe a slightly different pattern. What was included was transportation for the whole day between all the locations. Transportation was included in the price, at least. It was not added, it was not extra, and some companies were like trying to charge us for transportation, I think because they were going to use an external party, but this company, Bridal Corner, had their own van and everything, and it fit everyone. Touch-ups were included, so in between each location outfit change, I had a lady, and then he had, I think he was also using the same lady, or he was a guy. Tony didn't really need much touch-ups except for like sweat blotting maybe. Tony didn't really need much touch-ups or anything, maybe just some sweat blotting, but for me, my girl just kind of touched up my hair, touched up my makeup, helped me get dressed and undressed and everything, curl my hair if it was falling just because of the humidity, so that was really nice to have touch-up. The makeup is included, all including the lashes as well, so that's important for our ladies. Accessories were included, but if you wanted to wear your own, you can. So like certain things, like they wanted us to shoot with like certain sunglasses, I wore theirs, but like earrings, I wore mine because my ears are sensitive. Bows and ties for the men were included. So now to our not included list. Shoes were not included. Men's undershirt and white shirts were not included. Undergarments obviously were not included, so ladies, bring some choices for undergarments just because you don't know what dress you're gonna pick. Nails were not included, so you had to get them done. If you were adamant of not getting your nails done, I knew they were gonna put stick-ons on you. I am not a nail person, so I brought my own stick-ons. If I known that they had their own stick-ons, I would just let them put the stick-ons on me. Skin prep, so they want you to do a really nice skin prep in the morning, so I did that on my own. Lunch is not provided, water is not provided, fans are not provided, so be ready to starve. Bring your own water. When we got back though, we ordered lunch while we were taking out our photos. Museum tickets were not included, so you do pay at the door. Very affordable though, so not even a problem, not a problem. The vintage car rental was not included, like I said earlier, so you pay extra for a vintage car rental, and a belt. So for men, a belt was not included. Some pros working with Bridal Corner was that they were very helpful and kind. That goes a long way when you're already super stressed and there's a language barrier and it's hot. Like, who can be kind under all that pressure? Posing help, because these are some interesting poses that you naturally are not in. So they always help direct us by either playing it out or by navigating our bodies. Let me tell you, my abs were absolutely on fire by the end of the day. Expedited request, so that was one of our biggest concerns because we were only there for 7 to 8 days. Like, would they be able to shoot us, edit us, and give us all our photos all in one go? And they were able to do. Budget, like I said, very affordable. 1.1 and 1.3K USD is nothing in comparison to what America would charge for pre-wedding photo shoots, which I got some quotes for it. So in those range anywhere from 3K to 6K. So that's a no. That's a no. Everything pretty much ran like a smooth oiled machine that day of the shoot. Well, I appreciated that. It was a very smooth transition. Cons, which were not really bad cons, it's more like improvements, I guess, but nothing like totally like shitty. They didn't have many modern traditional Chinese dresses, but again, I felt like I could have prepared more on my part on that. No breaks, you just kind of flew through the day. you just flew. That was a little tough, but we did it. We did do it. Me and Tony looked at each other and said, will we do this again? And we said, hell no. Men had limited sizing, and so men had limited sizing and color. So keep that in mind if you are, again, for men as well, if you're not kind of like that typical average size in Vietnam, then you might have to bring your own attire. Foundation color for women. I am from Texas. I'm a little bit more tan, beige, olive, whatever. Now, I know Vietnam, their makeup is a little bit, or their skin tone is a little bit, well, not all, but like some provinces, their makeup or like preference of makeup may be slightly on the paler side, or just more on like a not as bronzy look. So the foundation they used on me was really light to where it was not matching my neck. So biggest tip for the photos and ladies, but with the editing, you would have never known. Bring your own foundation color, ladies, unless you naturally kind of have their complexion. Museum capacity, it is a very popular location for photo shoots. So I can remember just off the top of my head, ball number, like 7 or 8 other couples that were doing the shoot. And so that requires, you know, like rotating, waiting, you know, because everyone wants certain shots. The museum was only so big with certain lighting. So that kind of took up some time, but it didn't really inhibit me from too much. I might have missed out on maybe like 1 to 3 shots that I maybe would have wanted at the museum, but I was really happy with all the ones that I did get at the museum, where I didn't feel like, man, I really wish I got that shot. Like, I didn't feel that way at all. So on to the recommendations that I would give to my future self. Bring your own foundation. Bring water, bring a fan for the in-between, because it will save your life. Bring your own sunglasses, because if you have a specific look, and you know, not all sunglasses fits everyone's face shapes. Like Tony specifically brought his own sunglasses. I use theirs, but instead of their jewelry, I want to use my jewelry because my skin is sensitive. Have certain shots in mind and shown beforehand, so your photographer can kind of plan for that, you know, wherever in the day. Definitely like let him know or let her know, like, this is a specific shot that I really want. Stretch, I know that sounds so silly, but stretch, because they are putting you in angles that I've never been put in before. And I do yoga, Legree, Pilates, and I've never been in any of these positions. Just like, it's like the most minor positions that burn. So stretch. Your own pants. I think that kind of correlates with like for the men attire. If you're just not, you don't really fit or look like that average like Vietnamese male size, bring your own suits. Everyone's got a suit. Well, not everyone, but you might have to get your own suit. They upload everything. They upload the PDF book pages up there. They uploaded the 5 standalone photos up. They upload that one big one, all in separate files, so it's neatly organized. And they uploaded the video also in Google Drive with your music of choice. Everything was able to fit in our luggage. The book, since it was so heavy, we put it in our carry. It was a bag. They gave us a really nice, actually, briefcase bag. So we kept the 5 individual photos in the briefcase bag. Big, long reception image photo they put in this tube that is yay long. It fit diagonally in our checked-in suitcase. So if you don't have a big check-in, I don't know what you would do, because we have a huge American suitcase. So the moment that everyone has been waiting for, I'm going to show y'all our photos. So I'll show you the 5 individual photos, some of our book, and then I will not show you our reception photo just because that's going to be a surprise to everyone, and I want that to be the first time that everyone sees it. And so it's not anywhere on my social media or like YouTube videos, so that one's going to stay hidden, but I will show you kind of how big it is so you have an idea. that's it. Bye guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. So I hope this gives y'all some clarification and make y'all feel that I was holding your hand through this process of what it was like to contact them, shoot with them, and receive our pictures. So if you have any questions, you can totally leave them down below. I'm very responsive. I want y'all to get a very affordable shoot, whether it be with Bridal Corner or somewhere else in Vietnam or